Um, I am having a book signing in the Fairfield, Connecticut area. I can't remember exactly when, but I know that I'm doing something. I'm doing Greenwich Library next week. It's all on my website. If you go to janegreen.com and click on the events page, it's all there. And whoever you are, I hope that I get to see you there. To VYou, I do own a Kindle, and well, you've asked what my thoughts are on buying one versus printed books, and I have to say that I am a book lover, and nothing for me quite beats the book. I also am very averse to technology, so I'm trying very hard to ban all screens from the bedroom. But I think as an author, I'm really excited about the possibility for ebooks. I think that it opens the door to far more readers. We all love instant gratification, and I think to be able to see something, to read a blog or read a review online and then instantly be able to click it and read it, be reading it within a couple of minutes is really extraordinary. So I'm pretty excited about it. Another Kindle question. Will the book be available for download on the Kindle immediately upon release? I think so. I hope so. I'm going to try and find out, and if I'll come back and re-answer if it's different. Excuse me, the question is, I know it's like being asked to choose a favourite child, but which one of your books is your favourite? Well, I think it's a bit like a favourite child in that it changes all the time. I often say that my favourite is the one that I've just finished, but there are a couple that stand out for me. I loved writing The Beach House, and it was written at a time in my life when I was really starting a new life, and I just lost myself in those characters and really loved writing that one. And I will always love Jemima. And Jemima is my Cinderella take, Jemima J. It's my sort of slightly more modern take on the Cinderella story. And it's about a girl who really doesn't feel good enough, who doesn't feel that she fits in. And she has such sweetness, so Jemima always has a special place in my heart. So again, of all my books, which one is closest to my heart? I did just say Jemima. But actually, in terms of which one has the most meaning to me, it has to be The Love Verb, which was published in the US as Promises to Keep, because it was written after one of my best friends was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and it was inspired by the journey of looking after her. And although it isn't about her and it isn't about her family, there is so much of her in the book, and it was really about the lessons that I learned whilst I was looking after her, which is that love is a verb, that loving someone requires acts of love. It is all about what you do and not what you say, and life is short, and seize the moment. What inspired me to write the Jemima J story, and did I know somebody in that situation? I didn't know anybody in that situation, but like so many women out there, I have always had my own struggles with food, and Jemima was really about my own struggles with food and my own struggles with my body image and how I felt about myself. And so much of me went into Jemima. You know, the whole, well, you know, there are 3 packets of biscuits in the larder, and I may as well eat them now, because if I eat them now, then I can start my diet again tomorrow morning, and this time it's going to be all different. So there was an awful lot of me in that. The question is, would you say that you've grown up with your books, and how do you feel when you look back at some of your earlier titles? I've definitely grown up with my books. I started writing when I was 27. Sorry, the background noise is a cat going crazy with something. I started writing when I was 27, and I was single, and I was looking for Mr. Right, and the books have really charted the course of my life from meeting someone and marriage to having babies, becoming a mother, and then all the things that life throws at you in between, friendships and relationships with mothers-in-law and losing people and everything. And I am a very different person now to the person I was, or the person who wrote Straight Talking and Jemima J and Mr. Maybe. And those are important. They captured a time. They captured a time in my life, and you know, I just feel like a very different person. It's very hard for me to relate to them now, particularly the sex scenes, which I would never do now. The question is, what is your next book about, and have you started writing it yet? I have started writing it. I have my first draft on the page and am starting the edits on Monday. This one needs a lot of work, which I knew. I was finding it difficult, and my editor said to me, Jane, just lose yourself in the characters, fall in love with them, don't worry about the plot, we'll figure that out later. So I really allowed myself to do something completely indulgent and just write these wonderful characters. So now I have to actually go in and shape and craft and make a book out of it. So I think probably release will be same time next year. Fingers crossed. Cara Carey asks, how did you first get started as a writer, as a job? Well, I fell into journalism when I was in my 20s, and I love the words. I love playing. I love the writing. I didn't particularly love getting the stories, but I loved the actual writing of the words. And I worked for the Daily Express as a women's feature writer. And when I was 27, a girlfriend of mine, who I'm sure many of you know, actually, Freya North, who I have been friends with since we were, I think, gosh, 7 or 8. We were at school together. We were the naughtiest girls in school together. She suddenly wrote her first book and got a publishing deal. And I remember thinking, well, hang on a minute, if she can do it, then I can do it too, because I'm a journalist. And so I left the Daily Express and rather naively gave myself 3 months to get a publishing deal and get a book written. Which I would not recommend to anybody, but I was very lucky, and I did actually get a book deal, and that was my first book, Straight Talking, and that was it. That was in 1996, and I guess because Freya had done it, it didn't occur to me that I wouldn't be able to do it, but I never would have dreamt that I would go on to have the kind of career that I've had. And this is a question from Awa, I think. How do I combine being a mother of 4 with a professional career? With great, well, I was going to say with great difficulty, but actually with great discipline. I am tremendously disciplined, and I think that to be a writer, we often think that writers romantic, and they're getting up in the middle of the night and writing whenever inspiration strikes, but in fact it's a job like any other job, and I write in the mornings and I write as soon as the children go off to school, and I'm always done by lunchtime, so as soon as they get back from school I'm back to being mum. Pamela, I don't know why you can't hear me. I hope everybody else can hear me. If anyone else can't hear me, please let me know and I'll see if they can fix the glitch. And thank you to my lovely guest user from Lancashire, UK, and thank you for your congratulations. To Tracy Davis, who says, your stories are usually seen for girls and women. Have you any ambitions to write a book which appeals to a wider audience? Do you know, the truth is that I never think that I don't really think about my audience. I think about the story that I have to tell. I think most of the men that I know tend to read non-fiction and business books. The men that I know who are persuaded to pick up one of mine always say that they love it, but then they would because they're saying it to the author. But I think I don't think there's a huge male audience for these kinds of books, although, you know, if you're a male writer, you know, David Nichol, obviously, and Nick Hornby, then that's more appealing. But I tend to think of the stories that I need to tell rather than the audience that I'm appealing to. And the question is from my little French friend Geordie, who has emailed me over the years, and we have met in New York and had lunch, and he's very lovely. So, bonjour, Geordie. Was it challenging to write from the perspective of a teenager like Emily? Well, the question is a great one, because when my editor suggested I write as Emily, write in Emily's voice, I was very nervous, because a few years ago I had to write a TV series for Alicia Keys, and when it came to the dialogue, it was dreadful. I just had no idea how young people speak, and my stepdaughter actually took the script out of my hand and said, I'm redoing it, and she redid the dialogue because it was so bad. So I was really nervous about writing as Emily, but in fact, as soon as I did, I understood her, and I felt that I tapped into my own teenage years and that feeling of not fitting in. And I think it brought a completely different perspective to the book, and in fact it changed the story, because it enabled me to feel so much empathy suddenly for this girl that I really hadn't liked in the beginning. So bisous, mwah. So to Trish in Lancashire, who says that she wants to thank me for the love verb, and it helped me so much after she lost her mum. And Trish, I am so glad, and keeping fingers crossed and everything else that things are working out for you. You know, I feel very, very lucky that I have these readers who I've gotten to know over the years, and it's one of the great things about social media, about Facebook and Twitter, although it's very hard for me to find the time, and when I go AWOL, it's usually because I'm writing or just completely overwhelmed. But I do love the access that it gives me to my readers, and I do love that I know these people. Geordie is my pal, and Trish is my pal on, you know, virtual pal, and I love that I'm able to do that, and I think it's very rare. I mean, not rare these days, but when you think back, you used to have to write letters, and you might get a response, and now, thanks to this social media, you really get to know people, and it's really a blessing. So Trish, thank you, and lots of love. Loretta, I'm so sorry you have no audio. We're trying to find out. I have my my iPhone here, and I'm furiously trying to find out whether we can fix that. So sorry. To Loretta Thomas, who says that she met me 2 years ago, and do I see another book tour in the near future? Yes, but I'm not doing bookstore events. What I'm doing this year is a lot of festivals. I was in Tucson last weekend. I'm going to the Southwest Florida Reading Festival in Fort Myers this weekend, so please come. It's completely free. These festivals are amazing. And I'm doing a presentation on Saturday. I mean, come if you're in America, obviously, and in Florida, in fact. And I'm coming over to England in July, and I'm doing a big tour in England, which I'm really excited about, because I haven't done anything really in England for the longest time, and I think I'm spending a little while there, and I can't wait. I just can't wait to come home and do stuff in England. This is from VYou. What inspired me to write my first book? Well, you know, I had read High Fidelity by Nick Hornby, and every man I knew was saying, oh my God, this book's about me, and every woman I knew was saying, oh my God, this book's about him. And I just remember thinking, no one's done this for women. There hasn't been a book that has accurately charted what it's like being a single woman, in London. Of course, little did I know that the lovely Helen Fielding was busy getting Bridget Jones's Diary ready. But I decided that I wanted to write about my life and the lives of my friends, because we were all basically having the same awful relationships with the same awful men. And that was how I came to write Straight Talking. Krista asks, at one point you talked about possibly continuing the Jemima J story. Do you have any plans to do that? I would love to do that. I want to do it. The problem, I think, is that my writing has changed so much, and I have changed so much, that although I'm itching to tell Jemima's story, it wouldn't be a continuation, and I worry that might be disappointing. One of my all-time favorite books ever is a book called The Brother of the More Famous Jack by Barbara Trapido, and I read it years and years ago, and she's a wonderful writer, and I've read everything she's written, and in a later book she revisited some of the characters from that book, and I was so excited to see them again, and yet it wasn't quite the same, and so there was an element of disappointment as well, and I worry about that with Jemima, so I'm not sure. It's definitely there, and we'll see whether or not it happens. I think there are some other stories I need to tell first. To Helen Moore, who asks, when is my next book out? It's today. So if you're in the UK, go and buy it. If you're in America, it came out on Tuesday, so still go and buy it. Thank you. Do I have anything specific I want to say to my readers from VYou? Yes, I would like to say that if you go out and buy my book, when you read it, if you love it, please go on Amazon and post a review. And please tell everyone you know. And if you hate it, please do nothing at all. Thank you. From VYou, how do I name my characters? Oh, sometimes they just come to me and they're very obvious. And actually, I have had characters from unlikely places. I was doing a book signing in New York, and a woman came up and she said, "Can you sign it to Teddy?" And I said, "Teddy, what a lovely name." And she said, "Well, it's actually Theodora, but everybody calls me Teddy." And I'd been really struggling with the character, with the name, and I knew it wasn't right. And as soon as she said Teddy, I thought, yes, that's my character. So I asked her permission, and she said I could use it. And for the major ones, yeah, it often does happen like that. And I do realise, though, how many of my characters have, Andy, Teddy, Maggie, Libby, they're all similar types of names. But then for the minor ones, often I will just sit and look at the bookshelf and just wait for pick a name from one of my books. Oh, I have also asked for, on Twitter, I needed a name for the nanny, and I posted a request on Twitter for good nanny names, and I got Nanny B from someone on Twitter, which was lovely. That was in the Love Verb. From Martina, do I miss England, and will my next book or the one after be set in England? I miss England desperately, but only when I'm in England. Although as I get older, actually, I find that I miss England more. As soon as my plane touches down at Heathrow, I just get terribly homesick. But my home is in America now, and I've lived here for 11 years, and London, which is where I'm from, has changed so much, and I don't know that I could set a book well, certainly not in London, maybe in England. I quite like doing a half and half, because as you can hear, I may have lived here for 11 years, but I still sound like I got off the boat yesterday, and my sensibilities are still very English. All my kids are big tea drinkers, and proper tea, builder's tea, because here in America they do, when you ask for tea, you get huge selections of what they call herbal tea, and I'm like, that's not tea. Tea is PG Tips and Tetley, and so that's what my children drink. But I always have, or I often have, a little bit of England in the books, but I'm not sure that I would set my entire book in England again.